G'day everyone, welcome back to another video on the channel. The 2025 season is slowly creeping upon us, so I feel like it's a good time to get some 2025 content underway. So today we're going to be going over every AFL club and picking a few breakout candidates for this upcoming season. We did do this type of format last year. We go through each team, we're going to be going over a breakout player, an All-Australian smoky who's yet to make the All-Australian team, and also a player that's under the radar that could really break out. So maybe one that fans aren't really thinking of too much. Going to enjoy today's video, make sure to leave a like and subscribe, that'd be heavily appreciated. And let's begin. Okay, so let's begin with the Adelaide Crows. For my breakout player, it's just got to be 𝐼𝐼𝐿𝐼𝐿𝐼𝐿𝐼𝐿𝐼. He came back in the second half of the year and he booted more goals than had games. I think he had about 20 odd goals in 7 games. He put on just a huge amount of bulk when he was injured in that first half of 2024. He's powerful in the air, he's a strong player, and he's just got to be their man to really get this team going. For my All-Australian smoky, there isn't really a whole heap of names here. I'm going to be putting my eggs in the 𝐓𝐡𝐞 𝐎𝐥𝐿 basket. He was impressive to watch last year. He, I guess, somewhat had a breakout year last year with some best on ground performances. He obviously got the showdown medal the first time they played Port last year. This one's a very far left decision. At best, you could probably see 𝐼𝐿𝐼𝐿𝐼𝐿, if he puts together a superb season, make the All-Australian squad. But players like Laird are now starting to get past it, so it probably does open up a spot for 𝐼𝐿𝐼𝐿𝐼𝐿 to really fill in the void and have a fantastic season. And my under-the-radar pick, I'm going to be going with Josh Worrell here. I think he's really underrated. Very shrewd player and can intercept nicely. He's got good foot skills coming out of the D50. He did get injured also last year and he was playing some good footy up until that moment he did go down. And I just really like the look of him. He's one, alongside Max Michelani and Nick Murray. A few young defenders that I've got back there. Dan Curtin as well. One player you forget about, Josh Worrell. I really like the look of him, so I think he can break out in 2025. Brisbane Lions now, and it's a side that blooded quite a bit of youth last year. We saw the likes of Kyle Lohmann and Logan Morris, bit of Bruce Revel too. So my breakout player, I'm going to go 𝐓𝐴𝐿𝐼𝐿𝐼𝐿𝐼. He is sort of that forgotten one, I feel, when you look at the Ashcroft brothers and also, as we just said before, Kyle Lohmann and 𝘚cy𝰰𝐿𝐼𝐿𝐼𝐿 in there too. From what we've seen with him so far, he's just such a good user on the run. He's kicked some lovely goals on the run in open play, and can he just now knuckle down and have a really consistent season, an uptick in those disposals and statistic areas. 𝐓𝐴𝐿𝐼𝐿𝐼𝐿 for my breakout for the Brisbane Lions. All-Australian smoky, just go Cam Rayner. I know he made the All-Australian squad last year, but hasn't made the team before. He's just the one. He's the one. If he can really knuckle down and have a fully consistent season, you better believe he's a great chance to be an All-Australian chance, just with his brute force, his ability to accumulate somewhat alright in the midfield, but really damage forward of centre. That's what the modern day footballers are. And then my under-the-radar player, he's a player that had a great cameo against the Swans. Still remember it. He took 2 intercept marks in the final quarter. It's 𝐼𝐿𝐼𝐿𝐼𝐿. You never know with Brisbane, should they have a few injuries like they did last year, he could get his chance again and never look back. For the Carlton Football Club now, my breakout player for the Blues, the main one, is got to be Oliver Hollands. He's a high draft pick from 2 years ago, obviously, and he's been able to have some okay games on the wing, but his lack of strength, I felt, is really shown. So what they've done in the off-season, they've decided to move him to half-back, and from what I've been hearing in the pre-season reports, he's been going pretty shrewdly back there. So yeah, he's one that could really improve his confidence playing that half-back role. Like the look of him there. All-Australian smoky, I think it just has to be Tom De Koning. He's just such a popular option for the likes of fantasy and Supercoach at the moment, but is he going to be the solo ruck? When he was the solo ruck last year, he looked so good in the stoppage. He was powerful. He was also able to go for kick goals. Such an athletic player too. It's hard to see though when you look at Gawn and Sherry, etc., even like Darcy Cameron, for example. But I feel he's a very good example of an All-Australian smoky. And an under-the-radar type. He's one that I feel like a few people have forgotten a little bit when you look at Carlton's young players. It's 𝐿𝐼𝐿𝐼𝐿𝐼𝐿. He was also in the Ollie Hollands draft, I am pretty sure, from Tasmania. And yeah, he played around 18 odd games last year. He's one that's just got to keep on plugging away. And he's looking like the type of player he is. He could play a lot of games for this Carlton Football Club. He's powerful as a one-on-one player, and I feel like he's now starting to build confidence game in, game out. So he's one I like watching, 𝐿𝐼𝐿𝐼𝐿, and definitely one under the radar for the Blues. For Collingwood now, and my breakout player for the Pies, well, when you look past Nick Daicos, it's fairly limited, the under 23, under 22-year-old range for the Pies. But one player that I've been hearing good things about, he's moved into defence, is Reef McInnes. Obviously drafted as a midfielder. He's tall, he's athletic, he's played as a key forward the last few seasons or so. But now he's made the made the switch into defence. And from what I've been hearing, he's been going quite well. He's been actually in the A team for the match sim. So that shows, could he be past the likes of Billy Frampton and Charlie Dean come week 1 and get a key defensive position in Collingwood's backline? All-Australian Smoky, going to go with Darcy Cameron here. He finished second in the best and fairest, obviously, behind Nick Dacos. Felt last year was his big consistent season. So we've seen the data now. We've seen what he's been able to show on the field. Can he now take it that step higher and push on for All-Australian conversations? And to be fair, he was fairly unlucky. Felt like he should have made the All-Australian squad. One of the better, if not the best, ruckman in the comp of being able to float around the ground and take those important marks high up the ground and also in defence too. So, yeah, All-Australian Smoky, Darcy Cameron for the Pies. And under the radar, I feel like people have forgotten this man a little bit. It is Harvey Harrison. He was looking great up until, unfortunately, he did do his ACL. But he's got a bit of X factor, this guy. Proven goal kicker he's been able to show at AFL level and is able to push high up the ground and create opportunities. So we'll have a bit of a limited season, but one to watch, definitely Harvey Harrison. For the Essendon Football Club now, my breakout player for the Dons has got to be Elijah Sardis. I've been hearing a lot of good things about this man in Essendon match simulation notes. When he's been able to play at AFL level, he hasn't really set the world on fire. He's, in fact, looked like he struggled a little bit. So can he really now boss it and show why he is a justified top draft pick from a few seasons ago? For my All-Australian Smoky, Sam Durham, I feel. It's a very left field one. It's sort of like 𝐓𝐡𝐞 𝐎𝐥𝐝 with the Adelaide segment. He looks like a very solid midfielder, but is he going to be a top midfielder heading in this year? It's looking like you probably doubt it, but this man, what he's able to do forward of centre, just his ability to break free of congestion. He's a special player when he's on song, I feel, Sam Durham. So he's certainly one to watch. And my under-the-radar pick, I'll go with 𝐼𝐻𝐴 here. He was able to get his debut late last year, and he looked pretty neat back there in the back half. Yeah, defensively he had his issues, but he's still, he was played less than 5 games for goodness sake. So I feel like that will improve as he does gain experience. But he looks very neat coming out of the D50. So could he be one that starts for the Dons and perhaps pushes on for playing a lot of games this season? Next up now, we have got the Fremantle Dockers, and my breakout player for the Dockers in 2025 is Nathan O'Driscoll. You could almost put this guy in the under-the-radar category, given how forgotten he has been, given the injuries he has had. Unfortunately, he had the nasty leg injury last year in pre-season, missed basically half the season. Played pretty well in the WAFL and then finally got an AFL game late in the year. I think it was against Port Adelaide where he played pretty well. But he's a really exciting player from what he's shown at AFL level on the wing. He's got a great work rate, runs really hard, and that lethal left boot, he can really create some magic. So watch out on O'Driscoll. I feel like he can really up his numbers and play some consistent footy. All-Australian Smoky. Got to be Josh Tracy here. What an unbelievable season he had. It's a bit amusing. Last year we had all the eggs in the 𝐼𝐻𝐴 basket. And then Josh Tracy has the season he has. Now I feel like heading into this year, all the eggs are in the Josh Tracy basket. So you can't forget about a miss as well. But just what Tracy was able to show in 2024 was fantastic. Kicked over 40 goals, but he has those Charlie Curnow type of traits, just so aggressive in the air, a beast aerially. So I'm really excited to see, could he kick over 50 goals and push on for all Australian conversations. For the under-the-radar player, I'll go with Josh Draper. I still remember his game against the Swans. Geez, he was absolutely magnificent. And, with the likes of Alex Pearce going down a little bit last year, he was able to come in, gain some much important experience. So now with that under his belt, that should give him the confidence to really get going into 2025. So young defender Josh Draper, definitely keep an eye on him. For the Geelong Football Club now, for my breakout player, I'm going to be going with Shannon Neale. Retirement of Tom Hawkins, they just need that next key forward to really start to dominate. And it looks like Shannon Neale's one of their better options. From what I've been hearing, from the pictures I've been seeing, looks like he's put on quite a bit of bulk. So looking like he's raring to go. With the AFL match experience he's already accumulated and the bulk he has put on, certainly one to rally around Shannon Neale. My All-Australian Smoky pick, I'm just going to have to be going with Bailey Smith here. It's a very hyped up acquisition, I do know, but we've seen this man before. He's a high reputation player, and when he brings his A game, he's looking like one of the best running midfielders in the comp, and I'm interested to see, will he be a main inside midfielder where you play a little bit on the outside, and just Geelong know how to use players well, so I'm expecting the Cats to get the absolute maximum out of Bailey Smith. So if that's the case, could definitely push on for an All-Australian squad selection. And an under-the-radar type, I've seen a little bit about this man, and there's a few young midfielders that could really push into the side. Jai Clark is one. I'll go with Mitch Nevitt. Lawson Humphries is also another, but I feel like he's not really under the radar anymore. There's been so much talk around him. He was able to play a handful of decent games for the Cats in the back half of the year, and definitely one that could push on for best 22 selection. I feel like one of those draft picks that people forget about a little bit. He was, I think, in the second or third round, and then you've got Jai Clark, the main one, obviously, but Mitch Nevitt, watch out for him. Next up, the Gold Coast Suns, probably one of the more fun teams to go over in this video today, given the just high amount of young players they've got. So many exciting plays when you look at them on paper. My breakout player, though, has got to be Mac Andrew. I guess he semi-broke out. He was able to, for a few weeks, be one of genuinely the best intercepting key defenders in the comp. Then he did move forward in the second half of last year and showed his aerial abilities forward of centre. Obviously, he had a great game against the Dons, kicked the match winner too. But yeah, just this guy's athletic traits. He's one, obviously, off the back of a huge, I think, was it 8, 9, 10-year deal. He's one to really watch out, Mac Andrew. I think he could definitely go to the next level. All-Australian Smokey. It doesn't really feel like a Smokey, but Sam Flanders didn't even make the All-Australian squad last year. So, theoretically, he is an All-Australian Smokey option because we've seen he is one of the best accumulating defender midfielders in the competition. I feel like the defender experiment is sort of over with him. I think he plays his best as that midfielder, being able to rack up the footy. He's got a high engine, got a high work rate, so I'm really keen to see could he, push on for an All-Australian selection. Very unlucky last year. And under the radar type, he finished second in the best and fairest, so this shows how good of a footballer this young man is. But he plays for Gold Coast. It's a name that you don't really hear often. It's Bodie Ewland. He was able to really hold down the fort for the Suns and become an impressive small defender under Damien Hardwick, and I just feel he's going to continue to really impress for the Suns in 2025. So one to watch. Feel like just he is naturally under the radar, this man. For the GWS Giants now, my breakout player, I'm going to be going with Finn Callaghan here. It feels like it's a player that we go every single season, but he's a high draft pick, and surely this could be the year where he puts up some elite numbers like your Tom Green, because I feel like he's just always one that we don't really think about too much. When you watch the Giants play, this man just casually gets the 24, 25 touches each week, but you just don't hear much about him. I think he's a very impressive young player. So could he push on for 30 plus touches? Could he get a bit more of that centre bounce time? Because he also does play a wee bit on the wing. He's one to watch. Finn Callaghan. All-Australian Smokey. He's in his prime, this man. It's Jack Buckley. Very underrated one-on-one defender, this guy. In fact, he's had games where he's looked a lot better than Sam Taylor. And Sam Taylor's been interrupted, of course, with injury, but very impressive player. He's a reliability in that back half of GWS, and he has the numbers, genuinely has the numbers of all Australian conversations that he's been able to put up. So he's one that could be on the radar, and one that is under the radar, I feel, is James Leake. I've been hearing some good things about this man. Watched a bit of the Giants match him, and he's one that obviously got drafted 2023 from Tasmania. I think one of the Giants' first picks, and he's able to play defence, but also in the midfield, and I felt like had a pretty decent year for the Giants VFL last year too, with some games that I did watch. So high draft pick, high potential. James Leake is one that could potentially get his debut this year, no doubt, and could push on. For the Hawthorn Football Club now, it's hard to pick out some breakouts here because I've just got so many types that do fit in this bracket, but who do you go for? There's just options left, right and centre, but I just have to go with Nick Watson here for a breakout year. You could almost say he did sort of break out just because of the reputation this guy boasts and some of the goals he kicked last year. Oh gee, superb. You just know this guy's going to be a superstar, but could this be the year he pushes on for 30, 35 plus goals? Why can't he? He's now had that AFL experience. We've seen he's ticked the boxes like, this guy definitely has the potential to become a star. Can now put it together for 22 plus games a season. All-Australian Smokey, Will Day, Jai 𝐼𝐴𝐿𝐴, take your pick. I'll go with Jai 𝐼𝐴𝐿𝐴 here. His back half of the last few games of last year was outstanding. He started off the year pretty slowly though last year, but so did Hawthorn. So could he have the year where he really puts up the elite numbers all year long? Because he's shown it, and then he has a few quiet games. So he's got to eliminate those quiet games and put up an All-Australian calibre season, because he definitely has the potential. And under the radar player, might go with Cam Mackenzie here. He's another one of those more forgotten types when you look at Hawthorn's young players. There's so many to choose, and I feel like Cam Mackenzie's just one that sometimes people look over a little bit. I like some of the performances he's been able to show early on in his career. He's been able to really break free of congestion, use it neatly inside 50, kick some lovely goals too. He was pushed out of the side last year, so could he now push back into the best 22 and have a consistent season for the Hawks. Melbourne Football Club now, they are a side starting to now grow and build a bit of the younger side of their lists. 𝐓𝐴𝐿𝐴 𝐼𝐻𝐻 is my pick for the breakout player. I've heard some good things on Twitter about this man, and yeah, he's been very impressive early on in his career. He's a great contested mark. Questions is now, can he put together a fully fit, consistent season? All-Australian Smokey, it's a play we say every single year, because I pick it, could he be the man that really demands a bit of money should he go over west? But for Melbourne's sake, hopefully he does stay. But this man's just an excitement machine, so could he really put a full season of consistency together and maybe push on for an All-Australian spot? Because the small forwards, it feels like it's up in the air every single year. You never know who could push on for an All-Australian selection in that small forward area, so could he be one? And under the radar type, I'll go with 𝐵𝐴𝐿𝐴 here. He's won the last 12 months. He did go down with that injury there and he missed about half the season in opening round against the Swans. He's one I feel like it's forgotten a little bit. I love his composure. I like his foot skills out of the 50. Now moulding into a bit more of a smaller defender as well. Really like the look of 𝐵𝐴𝐿𝐴, so one to really consider of a player that could break out for the D's in 2025. For North Melbourne now, so many options to choose here. They've got a fairly young list with some exciting young players. For my breakout player though, going to be going with 𝐓𝐿𝐴 𝐼𝐻𝐻, entering into his second season, and his first year he was able to produce some outstanding games, but at the same time he wasn't able to put a fully fit year together. He had stress fracture issues, missed about a quarter, even almost half the season. So could he be one that really upticks his numbers and at least consistency and games for North Melbourne? Really keen to watch him. All-Australian Smokey just has to be 𝗼𝐻𝐻𝐻 here. Could he push on for at least a squad selection and potentially an All-Australian selection? He made the move from defence and moved more higher up the ground and also into the midfield. And he's just such a smart user. He's similar to Nick Daicos, both very young players and both just have such great game awareness. I'm not trying to bring Daicos into this, but it reminds me a bit of his awareness, similar to Nick Daicos. He just reads the game so well. He's clean and smart with his disposal. Really like the look of 𝐻𝐻𝐻. And under the radar, I'll go with Charlie Comben here. I feel like this year for the Kangas, it's so important that they've got to be tight defensively because they can put on as many points as they'd like, and they showed that a little bit last year, but defensively, they just leak goals way too much. And Comben, he was impressive making the move back last year, became a great intercepting player off the back of a broken leg. So could he be one that continues to really impress for the Kangas? Feel like he's a bit of a forgotten one when you look at more of the under 25 range of North Melbourne. Port Adelaide Football Club now, it's going to be Kenny Hinkley's last season. It was announced a few days ago, so very interesting stuff on how they will go this year. But one that I haven't really flip-flopped on my opinions of Port Adelaide for a breakout player is Jace Burgoyne. I did include him in players that need to have a big pre-season a few months ago. Just love the look of this lad. He's been able to play some nice games on the wing, but really found his home across half-back, and he had some honestly 3 vote-worthy performances. I think in that loss against the Crows the first time round, he looked like genuinely one of Port Adelaide's best players. Felt like he had a pretty shrewd final series, one of their better plays in that semi-final against Hawthorn, but he's just a smart footballer, and he's small, but he knows how to use his size well, knows how to use his strengths well, breaking free in open play, and a neat and really, really clever kick of the football too. So Jace Burgoyne for a breakout player. All-Australian Smokey, it's hard to go past Jason Horne-Francis. Pretty simple one here. He's getting another year older, another year in the system, and from what we've seen of him in a Port Adelaide Guernsey, at his best, he is such a hard player to tackle and a very impactful player forward to centre. Looking like he will get a bit more midfield time too, so that will definitely help push his case for a potential All-Australian selection. And under the radar play here, I really either like Josh Sinn or also Logan Evans. They're two players I like the look of, especially Logan Evans. He came in the side, mid-season draftee, and didn't look a foot out of place. He was very, very good. But Josh Sinn, a bit more of the higher expectation sort of guy, given he is the very high draft pick from 2021, I believe it was. They need to fill in that void of Dan Houston departing the club. Kane Farrell, a lot of high expectations on him as well. So could it be Evans or could it be Josh Sinn that really gets going? I feel like Sinn is a bit more of that forgotten one when we're looking at a player that could break out for Port Adelaide. Richmond Football Club now, and this is a fun one to go over, given the bountiful amount of young players they do have. For my breakout player, though, it almost feels like an under-the-radar selection here, because it's one we forget about a little bit, given he had the ACL last year, but it's just got to be Josh 𝐓𝐿𝐴. High draft pick from a few years ago, looking like one of the more highly promising key defenders on their list, and could he really put together a fully at least injury-free consistent season and show why he is a justified high draft pick. He's a very athletic player, great intercept mark too. All-Australian Smokey, I think he's never made the squad before, if I am, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's Tim Taranto. He's got to be the one that has a successful year, really get these young cubs on his back and show, and produce his high accumulation football. He's good on the inside, and he's a very underrated goal kicker, this man too. We all know he's a bit of an average disposal, but he's just got to have a highly productive season for the Tigers, no doubt. Taranto, could push on for all Australian conversations, who knows. And under the radar player, I'm going to be going with Tom Brown here. He's one that always really impresses me with his very good kicking skills coming out of the D50. He's also a fairly athletic player too, so he can almost be an accountable type of defender for Richmond as well. But so many young players to choose from the Tigers, but Tom Brown I feel like is one that we forget about a little bit, and keen to see what is in store for him in 2025. Okay, so across now to the Saints for my breakout player. This was all 𝐻𝐼𝐿𝐼𝐿𝐼, but unfortunately it's not the case. He went down unfortunately with that stress fracture injury, and he could miss up to genuinely half the season, so I've got to go with someone else here. I'll pick Darcy Wilson. He's one that really impressed me in his debut season last year on the wing. He's a professional-looking footballer, a very diligent type, and one that could definitely take his game to the next level. Elite with his aerobic ability and a lovely kick on the run too. All-Australian Smokey, hard to look past this man of 𝘖𝐻𝐼𝐿𝐼 𝐼𝐿𝐼. He's another one of those younger players that has looked great, but he's not at that elite level yet, so could he get to that next level, given he is now another year older? But he's just such an impressive footballer to watch. And then an under-the-radar player here for the Saints. As soon as he made his debut, you could see that, this guy belongs at AFL level, this young man, Hugo Garcia. He's put up some elite, he's looked, in fact, fantastic numbers-wise for St Kilda's VFL side, Sandringham. And when he finally made his debut, he made just all those tackles, and just his intensity this man shows is really good to watch. So it feels like this guy belongs definitely on an AFL list. So could he, get a few more games heading into 2025? One that I really liked watching last year. So Hugo Garcia, I feel like he's one under the radar. For the Sydney Swans now, it's a side that when you look at their sort of under 22, under 23 range, they don't really have many, because a lot of those younger players we always talk about the past few seasons are now in their mid-20s. So who do we go with here? I'm going to go with Matt Roberts. You could say he almost broke out last season. He's now looking like one of their main distributors at the half-back line for the Swannies, but he's a very impressive player. He probably lacks the top-end speed, but he reminds me a lot of Jake Lloyd with his composure and decision-making coming out of the back 50s. So it's now, can he put up some elite numbers all season long? From what I've watched of him at his best, he's certainly capable of doing that. So can he now push to that next rung above of consistency? For my All-Australian Smokey, it's just hard to go with one here, because when you look at the Swan Stars, they've all made All-Australian. So who's the next tier below that could push on? I guess James Rowbottom, just with his tackling and inside ball-winning ability. But he's one that still feels very left field. But we all know James Rowbottom, a very underrated player, and could push on for a squad selection if he's really able to put up some high numbers. And then an under-the-radar type here for the Swannies. I was going to go 𝐻𝐿𝐼𝐿𝐼. It's the perfect selection here, but unfortunately with what happened with him trying to buy drugs, I'm fairly sure it was, he's going to miss 2 games. I feel like that will disrupt his season a wee bit. So I'll go with 𝐻𝐿𝐼𝐿𝐼 here. This man has gotten quite a high amount of raps, but I still feel like on that overall Swans midfield picture, it's one that, it isn't a certainty that he's going to play. So he's one that is, I guess, theoretically under the radar, that could definitely push in should he's able to and play some consistent football. He's very good on the inside. He's sort of fairly one-dimensional, though. He can't really play anywhere else except the inside midfield role, but he's looked impressive so far in pre-season from watching a few clips of him. So 𝐻𝐿𝐼𝐿𝐼, one to really get around. West Coast Eagles now, and my breakout player for the Eagles here, it's got to be 𝐿𝐼𝐿𝐼 𝐷𝐿𝐼𝐿. He looked fairly impressive in his first season for the club, and then last year did have an injury-interrupted season. So now he's back, round to go. Definitely one to include in that midfield for the Eagles. And it just looked impressive in that first year. Just his inside abilities, his explosiveness. Really like the look of it. Keen to see what he is able to offer. All-Australian Smokey. Not really too many options here, so I guess I'll just be going with Oscar Allen here. He's in a contract year as well, so that makes you think, could he have a very high productive season alongside the likes, of course, of Jake Waterman. And then an under-the-radar type. Last year I did go with Brady Hough, and that turned out to be a great selection. He had a very consistent season, the young small defender, but one that is genuinely under the radar, one that we have forgotten about a little bit. Had a very good debut season, and I think he went down with, was it an ACL, broken leg? It's Noah Long, and really shrewd looking small forward, this man, and could he now get back into that best 22, play alongside the likes of, you know, 𝐼𝐴𝐼𝐿𝐼𝐿 and also Matt Owies, and a new player obviously for the Eagles too, but yeah, really like the look of him in his first season, so definitely one under the radar. Can he get back in that best 22 and take his game to the next level off the back of a long-term injury? And the final team in today's video, the Western Bulldogs. The option for my breakout play for the Doggies in 2025. Hard to go past Sam Darcy, the absolute giant, man mountain he is. You could almost say basically he had a breakout year last year with kicking, I think, over 35 goals, but I'm talking the type of breakout where, you know, we could start talking about all Australian conversations, push over 50 goals, have more of a consistent year, and really fix up his goal kicking. Could he really improve that in 2025? Because he missed a lot of gettable chances. But just this guy's athleticism, he's almost unstoppable. Is unstoppable in the air on many occasions. Watch out for Sam Darcy this year. All Australian smoky. Now, call me an idiot, but honestly, this man was special in the second half of the year when he did make the switch back. It's Rory Lobb. It sounds crazy, it's very left field, but he was putting up numbers-wise as one of the better intercept marking defenders in the comp. Liam Jones is currently injured, so if he's always going to be in and out of the side, I feel like a limelight's going to shine a lot more on Lobb in terms of importance and influence, so you never know. You know, just a bit of a fun one there, Rory Lobb, all Australian smoky. And one under the radar. Really enjoyed this guy's first year at the club. Was pretty shrewd back there in the back line for the Dogs. Joel Frazier, really composed user, felt in his first year, and that's just very promising signs given he's already had some good AFL experience in his first season. So that means he's got a bit of longevity, you'd think, in his career, and I feel like he can really strongly improve the numbers, and one to watch, Joel Frazier. So everybody, there was some breakout candidates for every single team. It's hard to just pick one player for every single club, so this is why I like breaking it up into categories. So a breakout, all Australian smoky, under the radar, so there's just more to talk about for each club. It's a very exciting time, this period, I feel like, of the AFL season. The optimism is growing out of every single fan base, really keen for 2025. Let me know some of your breakout plays down below in the comments if I didn't include them in this video today. Thanks very much for tuning in, everybody, and until next time, I will talk to you later. See you later, fellas.